Okay.
Did you start acting funny already? Here you go. As soon as I start, I think they just anticipate. What's up, everybody? I hope to make this very, very quick. But oh, did I lose it? Here it is. So a lot of people, they like to argue with me, and they're like, well, do you even know what a socialist economy would look like? Do you know what communism is like? And it's like, no. I live in the freest country in the world, so no, I don't know what those things is. And I don't want to know what socialism and communism is like. I mean, honestly, I think we have enough of it in this country already. Like, when you think about it, the United States is sort of, in my opinion, like Sweden, where it's socialist and capitalist, you know. But when you talk about, you know, communist countries and, communism creeping its way into a democracy like America, or I would say, I'm sorry, republic like America, you know, you start to wonder what that those things look like. So I had asked, the question about Cuba, and one of my connections on LinkedIn was telling me this interesting story about Cuba, how all of the innovators from Cuba left and they came to America, and they're some of the wealthiest individuals in our country today, right? So, when asked, is Cuba a good place to live, right? This guy who was raised in Cuba, he gave he provided his perspective on what it's like to live in Cuba, and obviously what it's like to live in a communism type country, right? So for those of you who really think that, communism, socialism is about like everybody being taken care of, and all this kumbaya crazy stuff, I like to take the lessons from Cuba. All right, so here we go. So when asked, is Cuba a good place to live, this guy said that depends. So it really depends on the individual as to whether or not, a place like Cuba, a communist country, would work for you. So he goes, the pros of living in Cuba. And honestly, I kind of like the pros of living in Cuba. Very low violence, slow life, lots of books and diversity, lots of beaches and good weather for the most part, free health care, nice organic food, low cost of life when compared with other Latin American countries. So that sounds pretty cool. But then that's all he can give us on the pros. Now, on the cons, little or no civil rights, free speech or freedom of assembly, no presumption of innocence, piss poor infrastructure and internet access, low quality of service overall, and few options for pretty much any activity or product you can think of. Also, a lot of common things are completely absent outside the larger cities. So if you're a young, ambitious person, Cuba is not the place for you. If you are a little kid or an older person living on memories and family visit, it's an excellent place to be. If you are looking for a holiday to remember, put a postcard in your cubicle. This is the place for it. If you are looking to start a company or make a living in high tech or something similarly demanding of development and infrastructure, not the place. Excuse me, are you LBGT plus? The LGB could get along fairly well in the cities, not necessarily in the countryside. The T, which is the transgender, will have a hard time anywhere. I could go on, but you get the picture. And I really appreciated his honest, picture of what it's like to live in Cuba. So obviously, Cuba's not a bad country, per se, for some of those individuals living there. Uh oh. Did they make me lose? I want my money back. I want my money back. Now I got to check my audio too. So it doesn't seem like Cuba is a terrible place to live, if you're trying to raise a family and have a slow, smaller life. I think it may be equivalent to maybe living in some rural areas here in America. But I think some of the more interesting things that he pointed out that I think some of these ungrateful millennials don't realize is how much freedom you actually have in this country called America. I was listening to a number of millennials give little video rants about celebrating the 4th of July and talking about this country isn't freedom, and all they could talk about was the history. They can't talk about the present, as if they're not sitting there talking, giving their opinions about America with the freedom that Americans are afforded to have to talk and criticize their country and their government. Better believe if I would not feel free to talk the way that I do if I did not live in America, because America at this point is a free country. It's a free country. That's why you have people that have the freedom to go out and riot and loot and tear up all kinds of things, and then the justice system will give them a slap on the wrist, and then they can go out and do things like that again. Only in America can you have politicians promote individuals to go out into the street and burn everything, loot, be violent. Only in America do you have the freedom to do that crazy stuff. So when I'm looking at Cuba, and this guy is talking about how they have no freedom of speech in Cuba. They have no freedom of speech, right? They have no civil rights. So you're talking about Black people fighting for civil rights in America, and you got Cubans over there that don't even have them. They don't have free speech. They don't have civil rights. They can't freely assemble. So forget having any type of Black Lives Matter or any other ridiculous movement, out there, because you can't have that. And, when people start talking about America is not a free country, it's not free, I'm like, take your ass to Cuba so you can understand what your freedom is about. Because those people don't have civil rights. They don't have free speech. Oh, see, I'm telling you, they don't like it when I'm talking the truth. Let me make sure the mic is still good too. But they don't have free speech. They don't have civil rights, right? They have piss poor infrastructure, right? And what really irritates me about, here we go. Because StreamYard, I don't know why this does this, but it literally defaults me to my computer, camera, and mic all the time. I think it's the cyber lords not wanting me to talk about how communism sucks, right? But this man is talking about how terrible their infrastructure is. He's saying that if you have any type of creativity, I don't think the cyber lords want me talking about Cuba and comparing the United States to Cuba, because they keep kicking me out of my stream and my technology. But I just want to make this quick point because I'm not about to play with StreamYard and YouTube. I'll figure out a way to recover from them later. But I will say that, when you talk about freedoms and even just the country that we live in, I definitely encourage people to look into Cuba and look at how those people are living and look at their freedoms and their civil rights compared to ours. They're damn near non-existent over there. So a lot of these young people, I think what a lot of people need to start doing is putting these young people up on game as to how other young people are living in some other countries outside of Are you gonna kick me out, or what are you gonna do? Jesus. All right, because I think that our kids have been conditioned to take a lot of things for granted. I think we live our newer generation, especially these Gen Zers, they have been conditioned to take a lot of stuff for granted. The ghost of Fidel is trying to mess with you, probably so, man. I'm like, gone somewhere, y'all demons. Be gone, Satan. Be gone from my stream so I can tell these people how living in America is so much better than living in Cuba. But I'm reading this guy's, opinion about living in Cuba, and I'm sitting up here like, can we just take all these millennials, all the American millennials, and all the grievance blacks, and ship their asses off to Cuba for a while so that they can understand, no matter what the history of this country has been, we ain't living in Cuba. Okay? We have civil rights. We have freedom of speech. We have a hell of a lot more rights and liberties than a lot of people around the world. And the only reason why I'm using Cuba as an example is because we have a lot of Cubans here in America that have escaped this type of regime because they knew if they were to stay there, they were the John Galts. Anybody read Atlas Shrugged? They were John Galts. They heard this call and they got the hell out of Cuba. They brought their asses to the free world, America, where they are some of the most creative and high net worth individuals in this country. Cuban Americans are not broke. Cuban Americans are not dumb. Okay? Cubans, to me, if you were to break down even, the Latinx community or whatever, you will see that Cubans typically are the cream of the crop in terms of ingenuity, hierarchy, technology. The past two generations were raised to be entitled and glorified for doing what you're supposed to do as an adult. Absolutely. But, I look at, what they've done, in terms of sprinkling all these critical ideas, that people didn't know about. They, especially at the school, our kids are not turning out to even be creators and innovators. So it's almost like they're setting American society up to be Cuba. Why? Look at the education system. It has gone down. Everybody that I know has said, wow, the education has really gone down, but we couldn't really. Here's the teachers. Demons on me now. Is it the teachers union? Now they got their demons on me. We got the teachers union. I'll make sure I didn't lose my mic. Yeah. I'm telling you, these little cyber demons are up. But a lot of people are saying education has gone down. Now, I really personally believe that there has been an agenda in the last 20 to 30 years to dumb down Americans, to suck out the innovation in us. You know what I mean? When you look at Americans, we are not as competitive as we used to be. We are not as entrepreneurial and in terms of our newer generations as we used to be. And like you said, Tiffany, it's about the entitlement. We had to work so much harder for the things that our kids don't have to work for, but it is our responsibilities as parents to still instill that balance. Like, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, if I ever just hit it big and I become a multi-millionaire, I am going to do what Aretha Franklin did. A lot of people talked about Aretha Franklin and how she did not support her grown ass black son. And a lot of people had a problem with Aretha Franklin. And when I sat back and I look at her and I looked at Aretha and when she provided her child and the luxury, I completely understand why she expected for him to create wealth of his own and not be thinking that her wealth was something to ride on. When you talk about generational wealth, we're talking about, your legacy has to be generating wealth as well. They can't be riding on yours because that's how generational wealth don't really stretch out. because you got all these entitled kids who never had to work for anything. It's amazing how many households I go into and the mama and the daddy working their asses off and doing the dishes, cleaning the table off. I'm like, what galaxy are we in? Where mom and dad are doing everything and the kids are in their cell phones, and then when you ask them to do it, you're being toxic for asking me to do chores. Every Black American child worsened only 1 month in. I'm sorry, every Black American child will spend only 1 month. Oh, right. Oh, shoot. I don't even think a Black kid will be able to spend. I don't think any American millennial, younger millennial, or Gen Zer is going to be able to survive any communist country for more than like maybe 3 days when they realize that they can't say whatever the hell they want to say. And if you think you can't respect the authority of your parents, wait till you get your ass over there to Cuba and you think that you can just talk out the side of your neck to grown folks that know more than your ass. They'll get you right. I really do want to just, like, let's just ship all these American hating people, take their asses over to Cuba or the worst communist country we can think of. What's the worst communist country? What is the worst communist country? We need to be sending them back there. Ilhan Omar needs to take her ass back to Somalia. She's ungrateful. She's ungrateful. Speaking of Somalia, her ass needs to go back. Only Black children raised on a hard budget could make it. They right. The ones that used to them ramen noodles, they're the real survivors, no doubt. Like when you used to just eat it like a pack of ramen noodles all damn day, you could go over there to Cuba, you'll be all right. But for some of these entitled kids, they're not gonna make miles. They're not gonna make miles. Oh, they're killing me with this. They're not going to make it with their mouths because, the minute they start talking disrespectful, like they think they can talk up in here or whatever, shoot, they liable to get their skull flipped back. Because I don't even know how the communist people rock over there. But this guy gave here's the thing. The way that this guy describes Cuba, it's a great place to visit. And here's the kind of the pro that I took out of it, because he said, very low, very low violence in Cuba. The life is kind of slow. And I'm thinking to myself, that's kind of ideal. I'm at the age where I want a slower life and lots of books to read. So I love books. I love being a nerd and just kicking back. So I'm with that. So I could see myself enjoying vacationing in Cuba. I mean, it seems very chill, but the cost of living is very low. From what I understand, they're constantly, let's go to China or North Korea. Yeah. And they'll ship all of them where the Uyghurs are in China. Let's ship all the American hating people right in that zone where they just out there mistreating and genociding these people. Like people don't realize how good they have it. In some parts of Cuba, you can't be gay. Only in America can you be anything but what you were born as. I mean, you got to think about that. There are some countries that do not accept somebody changing their sex, identifying as another sex, let alone lobbying and putting movements on so that everybody else has to get on board with these people's lifestyle decisions. Only in America can you do that. Only in America can you do that. I mean, seriously, a lot of people, I feel like these young kids, they are stuck on stupid. They are stuck on stupid with how some of them can fix their lips to just say, shh, 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 shh. I'm on a video right now. That's my cameo. But it's amazing to me. If you have little kids or an older person living on memories, it's an excellent place. But look at what he says. If you are looking to start a company, so if you're a capitalist, if you believe in a free enterprise system, if you're looking to start a company in Cuba or make a living in high tech or something similarly demanding of development of infrastructure, not the place. So that's why Cuba, all the creatives, all the innovators from Cuba left and they came to America because they have the opportunity to do that. And they did that. You know what I mean? It's like, I think a lot of people need to do more research on how this country, the freedoms that we have in this country, the liberties that we have in this country versus the experiences of counterparts in other countries. I think that you would agree that the reason why people want to come here is because America affords people the freedoms and the liberties to be able to leverage their skills and capabilities and be successful and create the standard of life that they want. See, in Cuba, everybody has this standard of life. But in America, you can go from, this is one of the very few countries where you can go from being very, very poor to being very, very rich, sometimes overnight. So I just wanted people to think about this for a little bit. I mean, I've never, when people come up to me, have you ever lived in a communist country? And it's like, no. But what I have done is read about them. And after reading about them, I feel like, in my opinion, I would much rather live in the United States of America because I have freedoms. Right now, what I'm doing with you right now is a freedom. You know, whether people want to admit it or not, me being able to have the technology, even though it's crappy and not working half of the damn time, this is freedom. You have the freedom to be able to tune in to any podcast you want to. Thank you for being with me for this moment. You have that freedom. I have the freedom that when I turn off this thing, I can go to the park, I can jog, I can walk, I can go to my neighbor's house. I can do whatever pretty much I want in this country and understand that everybody is not living like us. So when people want to talk about all these past pains and transgressions and America's not free, and because Asians were in the ghetto back in the World War II and black people were slaves, and it's like, if y'all don't get over the fact that black people were slaves, because guess what? We weren't the only damn slaves. We weren't the only damn slaves. Okay? We were not the only damn slaves. A lot of people were slaves in various forms. Lots of people who immigrated to America from slave-like conditions. And they're not black. These people are not black who understand slavery. Black people were not the only slaves, and I think we need to be realistic with it. They don't want me talking real talk. As soon as I start talking like, oh gosh, you mentioned black people weren't the only slaves. Let's fuck up a broadcast. I don't want to live anywhere else but America. My elders and ancestors worked too hard for me not to appreciate my company. Absolutely. I listen to some of these blacks right now, and I'm like, if the ancestors were to come back and see the condition of black America today, they would be ashamed. Oh, they really cutting me off. Ugh, this is so mean. I think the ancestors would be very much ashamed of most Black Americans today and how they have literally cleaved on and clutched onto their experiences as an excuse not to create their own. And that's basically where I look at Black Americans today as betraying their ancestors with with these crutch rhetoric, this crutch argument, and not being accountable. So that is my take. If anything, appreciate the country that you live in, because you could live in a much worse condition than we live. And I don't really think that America is a terrible place to live. I think we have a lot of quirky weird ass people in this country that push a lot of weirdness. And if they get enough of these weird ass, insecure, quirky ass people to come together or whatever, then America can appear to be a terrible place. But I feel like America is not what is being projected. If anything, I feel like all these riots was just a Democrat historians, way of getting a bunch of graphics and pictures so that they can paint American history to be a certain way, because they are on a mission to constantly change American history. And people need to think about it. They're not just doing it with slavery. They're not just doing it to target blacks and how they look at their history. They're doing it to Americans as a whole. What they're doing though is they're trying to cater their arguments to black people, but what they're doing is to all of us. And that's why I have no allegiance to these social justice warrior arguments, because at the end of the day, what these people are doing is to all of us. All of us. So, I don't know about you, but I don't want to live anywhere else than America. Until America turns into a complete communist country, then I will reconsider that. But for right now, until we are the land of the free and home of the brave, I am going to stick with loving this country that I was born in. I think we are one of the greatest countries on this earth. And I don't care what our history has been, America has reconciled for its history. And I think that needs to be on people's lips more. America has reconciled for its history in more ways than one, actually. And I think people need to start looking at, how America has changed over the years. We've had a lot of civil rights arguments throughout our history, and we have made things right. Maybe they weren't during the time duration that some people would have thought they should have, but I feel like America has constantly made an effort to make things right when it comes to past transgressions against groups in this country. And when you want to talk about reparations, I want to ask black people, we got a lot of socialist programs, a lot of free money. I feel like black people have had reparations 12 times over. It's time to get busy with yourself and getting yourself skilled up to compete. I'm black and I've always known how Asians were treated in the past. It took for the pandemic to acknowledge it. I find that ridiculous. Here's the thing. I learned about the Asians being in the ghettos. I learned about the Asians being called yellow people. But let me tell you the difference between the Asians and the blacks, right? Asian Americans have strived to own their narrative. That's why we didn't see that Asian hate thing last too damn long, because they like, give it back to them. That's what they cleave on to. We don't want to be projected like that. Like, blacks are the only ones in this country that will take a narrative like racism and run with it as an excuse not to be great. And that is why the black community in this country is so leverageable time and time and time and time again. All you got to do is show black people racism to get them inflamed, and then give them some flowers vicariously through another black politician dangled in their face. Because for some reason, black people, a lot of black people, I'm not going to summarize the community or the segment, but there are a lot of blacks who are blissfully ignorant. And they pass that blissful ignorance down to one generation to the next. And it's like, uncle, who's talking about slavery and civil rights. Okay, you were a kid when your parents had to deal with those things. So please tell me how you being able to benefit from the fact that they went through it, but you didn't. How are you still paying by what they went through? Seems like you're using that as an excuse. You're basically living your problems vicariously through slaves and social justice warriors during the civil rights era. Some of these people don't make any sense to me. They really don't. They really don't. So, anyways, like I said, I'm proud to live in America. I'm happy to live in America. Even though we have a lot of things that we need to work out, like our debts. The Congress is looking to increase our debt ceiling. And we increased the debt ceiling in 2011. And I think we did it again in 2013. And I just want to understand what person or business entity can function like we function. Like, I feel like the 16th Amendment should be abolished because I feel like they are abusing their taxing authority. That's what I look at this debt ceiling being. Let's raise the debt ceiling because we have taxing authority. That's why Biden is putting so much money into the IRS, because they're going to figure out a way to get into people's pockets. I almost look at inflation as a form of taxation, a colorful way of taxing people. Because, shoot, I'm still paying more money. Whether you're taxing me or it's inflation, I'm paying more money. I think the way that they're doing things monetarily in this country is taking us down. It's taking us down. This country is so racist and oppressive, but everybody trying to come here and complainers won't leave. That's what I'm talking about. You know, when I look at people like the Obamas, this ain't even trying to be funny, because when I used to grow up, I used to hear, white people tell black people, you need to go back to Africa. And that was actually one of the most racist things that I used to grow up hearing white people say. And it was always associated with white people saying, go back to Africa. But now listening to this rhetoric and understanding it 100% with clarity, I'm like, shit, I ain't no racist, but I'm going to have to agree with racist Joe. You need to get your ass out of this country, for real. Because if you are that disenfranchised and you are a multi-millionaire black talking about how terrible this country is, it's like you really need to get the hell out. Go take your ass to Cuba and see how freely you can talk about that government and how sucky that country is. I bet you they don't play that. I bet you they don't play that. It's insane to me. I feel like there's a lot of people that have really contradictory rhetoric on their lips, and they're really feeding into the mental health dysphoria that a lot of people who have been grandfathered into these ideas are dealing with real time, because they can't actualize themselves, right? So a lot of blacks living in poverty, they are being spoon-fed these ideas that is where you're supposed to be. And it doesn't have to be verbatim. It can just be through policies and rhetoric that they're learning in school. America has been subverted. America has been subverted. You guys need to look up what subversion means, and you'll understand that there are about 4 levels to subversion, and the first level takes 20 years to accomplish. The first level of subversion takes about 20 years before you can move on to the second phase. And to me, these subvertive behaviors and policies and even the rhetoric that I've just kind of come back and sat back and observed in this country, we are being subverted into Marxism and communism and socialism. And this time they don't want a point of return. They don't want a point of return. And I'm actually glad that Donald Trump did come in and he won for those 4 years, because if we would have went from Obama to Hillary, we would have been fucked. At least Donald Trump winning broke the sort of the planning of this going down as quickly as they're trying to get it to go down now. Trust and believe the Democrats are playing catch up, because Trump was not supposed to win. Trump was a 4-year delay in what they are trying to turn this country into. And unfortunately, like I said, you have a lot of politically, ignorant voters who don't understand how to see beyond the surface. You have to see beyond the sensational rhetoric. You have to see with a third eye. And people that saw things and how it was going the right way, they voted for Donald Trump. They voted for Donald Trump. And it's unfortunate that, however they freaked the election, he did not do a second term, because what they're doing and what they're probably going to do in the next 4 years is going to fuck us over. Disenfranchised now, and believe Trust and believe. Trust and believe. You ain't seen nothing yet. You have not seen anything yet. Because I don't think it looks good for America. I really don't think it looks good for America. And if we continue to, and I don't trust the Republicans that they weren't part of this planning either. You know what I mean? And and that's why I'm like, damn. Let me tell y'all something. On election night, I went to bed. Donald Trump was winning Michigan. He had a strong 300,000 votes in Michigan. And I'm like, and I felt like I could sleep better at night because, if you win Michigan, we're one of the swing states, the probability is pretty high that you're going to win. And I woke up that next morning just to kind of see what was happening in the other states. And when I saw Michigan was blue, like, and I'm not a Trump loyalist, right? I'm more of a constitutionalist and I love America. And I was devastated. I was devastated and I knew something wasn't right. I knew something wasn't right. I knew something wasn't right. And I don't care, what these people want to say and how they want to try to convince America that was not a free and fair election, in my opinion. It wasn't. And that's why the Democrats are so addicted to this voter ID thing right now. I clearly saw him win too. Girl, if you were looking at the votes, damn it, were they just about to kick me off for real, because I'm talking about the election now? These people are so communist. We live in such a communist country right now. Google is a communist organization, in my opinion. StreamYard might be on there. But girl, I saw Trump like he clearly won. And honestly, even with the numbers of the African American vote, I like they can't play down if you break down the analytics. See, they don't want to talk about the election, but if you break down the analytics, Trump won. I don't give a fuck what these people trying to convince everybody of. They're like, if you just keep saying the lie, everybody's just gonna have to be forced to do it. Like, no, we're gonna deal with y'all cheating asses until we can get Trump back up in here. All right, that's what we need to do, right? We don't have to deal with y'all asses. We need to primary as many Democrats as we possibly can. We need to get a lot of these passionately ignorant Democrats out. And I want to know something. And I'm not trying to or anything like this, but why is it? Can y'all tell me if I'm still on? Because these people are really messing with me. But I'm trying to understand how the Democratic Party got all these immigrants that hate America in their party. Can somebody explain that to me? They got a shit ton of diverse looking immigrants in a party, and they seem to be riddled with hate. It's almost like you can't even join the Democratic Party unless you hate a specific group. Like, I mean, they got Jewish haters up in there, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib. They're anti Semitic haters, right? So they fit perfect. Oh, you hate a group. Going on in there, right? Agreed. No voter ID was the end of the free world. Yeah, the voter ID laws, like to me, what they're pushing, Kamala Harris couldn't even give an intelligent explanation as to why they're pushing BS. The only reason why the Democrats want voter ID and they don't want voter ID is because they can't cheat that way. If you make it harder for those devils to cheat, you know what I mean? Because nothing that they're arguing right now makes sense. Nothing that they're arguing about the voting, the process of voting, nothing they're arguing makes sense other than the fact that what the Republicans are trying to do is make election fraud harder. That's basically what it is. Because everybody, I mean, even Democrats, black Democrats, black Democrats, even they, like, I mean, I was talking to one of my homeboys. diehard Democrat, love him to death though. That's my boy. And he like, yeah, I kind of think Trump won too. A lot of people, they looking back like shit. Y'all won, but we know Trump deep down won. It didn't make any sense. It just nothing about last year's election made sense, and they did everything they could to secure their fraud. In my opinion, delaying votes. Like, why can't we? We should know the president of the United States and who he is or who is has been elected on November 2nd, right? But the Democrats, they played the pandemic and they played this voter, the mail-in ballots. Let me see something. I don't feel like going through this drawer. I have three mail-in ballots that were sent to me. Three different ones. Like, I didn't request a mail-in ballot. My intention was to go in person and vote, which I did. But I got three different mail-in ballots come. My friend, she got a mail-in ballot for her husband's grandmother who had been dead for over 5 years. And she got her a ballot for her too. You will never convince me that Jim Crow Joe got more votes than. And that's the thing. It's like, who the hell planned that little sham? Like, I mean, my thing is, they made Obama look so pathetic because it's like, you mean to tell me that Joe Biden's sleepy ass from his basement got more votes than Obama? More votes than Obama. And the only thing we were doing, we were only dealing with a pandemic. I think this is a sensitive topic. I had a flawless stream the other day, but when I talk on the sensitive stuff, they don't like it. If I say VF, that means voter fraud, y'all, because I don't know if they just sensitive. They may say it may not be official yet, but Trump is running in 2024 and will be the Republican candidate. Yeah, here's the thing. I wish I know he had to do what he had to do, but I really wish that Trump would have just personally believe. Um, I personally believe that Trump could run and win without the Republicans, but that's just my opinion. I'm not a Republican, but I would love it if Donald Trump started his own Patriot Party, Middle America Party, and just got rid. I feel like both sides of the aisle are slimes. I feel like both of the sides of the aisles have betrayed Americans, and I just can't advocate for either. I would really love if he just started. I was excited for him to start a Patriot Party because really he has the Republican base. And if Trump ran as a third party, he'd get a lot more African American votes because black people don't like Republicans, right? But we would fuck with a third party all day long. Trump will match Grover Cleveland, 2 terms, non-consecutive. Trump's gonna win again. I mean, the Donald's gonna win again. When their asses so much. Can you guys still hear me? Because they own it again, talking about the Democrats, and then they start freezing me. But the Democrats have showed their asses too much. And they've also revealed themselves. And I also think that Trump did exactly what he came to do. And he exposed the establishment. And he continues to expose the establishment. There are a lot of black people that are woke because of Donald Trump. Because of Donald Trump. Because Trump was doing things and he was saying things, and a lot of people were missing it. But a lot of people now are kind of going back, and they like, damn, Trump was right. Trump was right. So I would definitely vote for the Donald, even though he'd be running with the Republicans. I would vote. what are you going to do? I'm about to end this stream, gal, because they just really irritating me right now because they don't want me to talk that real talk. But yeah, I'm for Trump running again, and I would definitely, if he cognitive, I'll support him. I mean, my thing is anything but Joe Biden. I mean, they couldn't pick a better. God. I started talking shit about that guy, and now they're freezing me up. See that? These people are not loyal. These people are not loyal. They're taking my audio out. They're taking my video out. As soon as I talk about Joe Biden being a dummy, a crash test dummy, you say anything about Joe Biden, dummy, then all of a sudden they start freezing. But I want the Donald to run again. And I want as many Democrats primaried, and Republicans or independents, they need to be raising their own candidates, right? I mean, good contenders, not these goofy ass people. I'm sorry. I wish I was like a political strategist for some of these political parties, and just like I have a background in recruiting and staffing, and I would literally help them find prime candidates that are marketable, that can be sold, not to appeal to people. You know what I mean? Because I think that there's a lot of organic Americans that really should be in office. They think that they shouldn't be in office because of maybe where they are at in life. I'm one of those people, but I just don't really like politics like that. I like to talk about it. But there's a lot of good people that could rise up, and I could see a middle American party taking out both of these parties one day, because we're gonna get tired of both of them eventually, and there's gonna be a third party that's gonna rise from all that racist rhetoric. The third party won't have racism on their lips in any type of form. Trump would not have won the 2016 nomination with our bipartisan system, right? Racism is his number one. They do not want us talking. I am not playing with this stream anymore, guys. They don't want me talking about Trump, so I'm tapping out. But great conversation, everyone. I hope that, in terms of Cuba and learning the lessons from Cuba, again, these people don't have any civil rights, they don't have any freedom of speech. And this is something for the millennials. When you're talking to them and they're talking about America is so awful, we're so racist, we're awful. It's like, okay, Jenny, take your ass to Cuba for a while, and this is what you're going to experience. It's time to start getting real with some of these millennials, these entitled people. It's like, what have you done for yourself? I'm like Larry Elder. Have you looked in the mirror and asked yourself, what did I do for me today? What did I do to develop myself today? If you're not doing that, take your ass to Cuba, for real. Anyways, everyone, have a wonderful evening. Sorry for the choppiness. I have all of my bars, and I have a Wi-Fi booster, and this is still tripping out. So apparently Google, which Trump is suing, they're one of the tech companies that Trump is suing. I feel like they're going to, hopefully he can get them right, because I really do believe that Google is a censor. I think all of these technology lords are censorship. And now I'm starting to question StreamYard. I'm starting to question StreamYard too. So you guys have a wonderful evening. Sorry for the choppiness, but I'm glad that we were able to have this conversation. The more conversations, the better. Bye.